road. It's a road so small I don't even have painted lines on it, and it's less than a quarter of a mile from one end to the other end of this road. And that's why I just kept saying, "Come to 101 Kimberly Drive,"
So,
because you can't miss me.
right. So I know you at the very beginning, and I'm going to go all the way back to the very beginning of the stop. You had next-tailed Tony. Did you ever think that Tony was behind you? Did you think that Tony was going to be there quick? What was your thoughts about your backup, knowing that? Did you tell him exactly where you were when you next-tailed him, or did you say you better come follow me?
I told him what road we were headed up, which is a common area that we chase cars over off of Airport Road and Carolina Drive Extension, all that area. It's an Arkwright community.
Mm-hmm.
We would get in 3 to 4 car chases a week over there, which was nothing new. So he knew exactly where I was when I said the road I was going.
So did he ever find your patrol car?
So once I got shot, I'm going to back up a little bit to make this a little more together. So once I got shot and I got down behind the mailbox,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where Robert was. So I tell him on the radio where I'm at, keep telling him there, everybody's coming. And which leads me to a problem in law enforcement a lot today. When something happens, everybody wants to talk on that channel of the one person that needs to be on that channel.
Absolutely.
Which it come into play. We had supervisors talking on the channel, and I'm out by myself, I'm shot, and they're talking on the same channel, and I still don't know where the suspect is.
So let's be real here, and I'm going to ask you this question, and I just want you to be as real as possible. So when you're behind the mailbox, a normal person might think, I do have cover, but I don't necessarily know where he's at. Did you ever have an idea or maybe a thought that he would actually come back, knowing that he shot you twice before and he actually tried to come at you before you shot him? Did you think he was going to come back and you were going to have to do it again?
I didn't think I would see him again, but I actually did. So
Okay.
He goes 3 houses down to his cousin's house on Kimberly Drive, gets in a Cadillac, drives past me, slows down in the middle of the road, looks at me laying on the side of the road. I get on the radio, and I tell him on the radio, I said, and if you listen to the full radio traffic, I come on the radio, I said, he just passed me on Kimberly Drive. He's in a Cadillac. He's going out toward Airport Road, but he don't have any lights on. I said, but y'all need to get over here because I'm hitting the head. So
right. And
at
that's
that point, nobody still hadn't got there. And that's what I said earlier about the car rolling across the front yard would come into play.
Mm-hmm.
So when Tony gets there, he comes on the radio and he's like, where are you at? I'm at your patrol car. Where are you at? The patrol car had rolled 60, 70 yards across this front yard. So they're looking nowhere near where I'm at.
So your patrol car, did it come out of gear?
Not my patrol car. The suspect's car. My car is still sitting in the road.
His car.
So they start looking from there, thinking he wrecked and took off running from where the car's at.
Right, I got you.
So it took them a while to find out where I was at because, like I said, nobody was listening to me on the radio say I'm at 101 Kimberly Drive.
Yeah, it would have been easy if they'd have just listened. They'd go right to you.
Exactly. So finally, Tony comes running across the field, and it was one of those points where your adrenaline starts coming down because I seen him leave. So I'm not safe, but I know he's left and he's not coming back in that car after he took off in that car, knowing police is coming. So that adrenaline starts coming down. So I sat there for a while waiting on somebody to get there. And then as the adrenaline starts coming down, you start losing energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I roll over and lay face down. I actually got down on my hands and knees and I was like, I'm just going to lay down for just a second, catch my breath, and then I'm going to get up. Well, I sat on my hands and knees for a second, trying to catch my breath. So then I lay down and put my head on my hands, laying down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not even 20 seconds later, I hear Tony yelling my name. He's come running across the field. He sees me laying there. Well, so he's running towards me, yelling my name, and I hear him. So I start getting up and I sit up to all fours, and I look up at him as he's running towards me. And he gets maybe 7 to 8 feet away from me, and he stops like he's seen a ghost. And that was at the first point that I realized how bad it really was because of his reaction when he seen me.
Mm. Do you remember what he said?
He just stopped and stared. It was like he didn't know what to do. We were extremely close. Like I was at his kids' football games. I was eating dinner at his house. I mean, we were extremely close as zone partners. So that was big for him because how close we were like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So he stops and hesitates for 2 to 3 seconds, and then he comes running towards me. And he later put in his report that he could see the gaping hole in the side of my head and steam coming out of it because it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And he could see the steam coming out of the side of my head.
Mm.
So when he gets there, it's like a renewed sense of energy, man. It's like, okay, I got somebody here. And ultimately, still in the back of your head, you're like, okay, let's go. Let's go get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I argue with him. He's calling an ambulance. I'm like, just leave me alone. Let me get up.
Right.
I'm fine. And obviously, he's trying to make me lay down because he sees how bad it is.
Did you realize the second wound, or were you just kind of focused on the first one?
I didn't know the second wound yet. I still didn't know that I had a second wound. Well, when he made me sit back down, that's when I figured it out.
You had to sit on your butt.
I sat on my butt and I said, oh, hold on now. And I reached back there and there was blood. I said, well, I guess I get hit there too.
And did that leave and just going back, he used the 410 shotgun rounds, and I'm assuming there was holes. Did it ever happen that your face was charred, the black charring?
Yes. Luckily for me, I say luckily just because I want to know as much about the incident as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know as well as I do, at the county they have ID units.
Mm-hmm.
So that's their only job is to go around and take fingerprints and photographs of crime scenes. Well, luckily for me, they got there before I was transported by EMS. So they took pictures of me on the ground while EMS was en route. So I have the photos, and my face is as black as you can imagine because it was so close. It was point blank range when I got shot.
And we'll hopefully get some of those photos and maybe put them up on the website for all the listeners to see. All right, so take us to the ambulance. Obviously, you know you're shot now. Tony's there. You finally have a familiar face. That's comforting to see. Adrenaline dump. You're finally losing some energy. You're realizing this is probably a little bit worse than I thought. How long? And I think this is an interesting topic because, like you said, it took a little bit for someone to get to you, but not only help from the law enforcement side, it took a little bit for the ambulance to get there. And can you kind of explain on why that happened?
Yeah, so we was less than 5 minutes from Spartanburg Regional, which is the biggest hospital around our area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem was when something like that goes off on the radio, everybody knows that cops are coming from everywhere. Every town unit in Spartanburg County, Highway Patrol, all of Spartanburg County, everybody is coming to this area. Well, as small as I told you that road was, it don't even have painted lines.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, you know as well as I do, they come flying in, parking side by side any way they can get as close as possible.
Right.
Well, the problem with that is they blocked the entire road and the ambulance couldn't get to me.
Okay, so how does it finally get to you? Do people move cars, or do you go to them?
My supervisor, Shannon Osterhout, starts yelling on the radio, y'all have got to get the cars out of the way so the ambulance can actually get to him. Okay. Because Tony had originally called for the helicopter to come pick me up because
and that was why. Bad. Why did he do that?
Because it was such a bad head wound.
Okay. And so I'm assuming he saw you and then saw how bad it was and then got on the radio and called for the
he went ahead and told him to put it on standby.
Mm-hmm.
So that they would start loading up and getting everything ready. He ended up canceling the helicopter, which I give him a hard time about. One time I was going to get the ride in a helicopter, you call and cancel it. So.
Well, I'm just thinking about it as far as a zone, an officer in another zone. When you hear, that you need to get the medevac on standby. I mean, that's, in my mind, I'm thinking this is bad, man. I mean, regular victims don't just ride in helicopters. Those are only reserved for the very critical that need to get there fast.
And to be honest with you, it took from the time the ambulance actually got to the scene, they couldn't get to me, but from the time they got to the scene, for me to get to the hospital, which was 5 minutes away, it was 30 plus minutes because it took them that long to be able to get me to the ambulance.
Mm.
So,
okay, so you get in the ambulance, and I think this is really an awesome thing because you've obviously talked to me about this in the past, but you get in the ambulance and like you said, you're very close to your zone partner. It's like a brother, family. What was the interaction between you and Tony when you actually got to the ambulance? What was that like?
When the ambulance actually got there, And it was another one of the things where you want somebody that's close to you. So I asked the ambulance drivers, I was like, y'all have got to let him ride in the back of the ambulance.
Mhm.
He's coming with me. Otherwise, y'all ain't transporting me.
Right.
But
And what,
I got to have somebody with me.
right.
I feel
Was
comfortable.
that kind of a familiar face thing for you? Give you
Yeah.
comfort?
And he was keeping me calm down, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because at that point, I mean, I was just ill. I didn't catch the guy. Because later on, I'll tell you, first time I seen the sheriff after it happened, he walks into the ER, sees me in trauma bay. He said, "You okay?" And I apologized.
Right.
He said, "Why are you apologizing, man?" I said, "Well, I didn't catch him."
Yeah.
That's
And
that's
that's
the
just you, and
mindset
that's
for
just
me.
you, man. I mean, you very, very. I don't know if I should say competitive, but you are very competitive as far as doing your job and doing it to the fullest. And the fullest to you is making that arrest. It's not just stopping a car and they run and you do a report. That's not full for you. You feel incomplete. You feel like the neighborhood is not any safer than it was when you started to pull the car over. So I can understand that fully. So you're married when that happens.
Yes,
And she was also a police officer at the Spartanburg City.
yes.
What was the expand on that? I mean, that's got to be devastating. How did she find out? Did you call her? Did go into
So
that?
when Shannon, my lieutenant, gets there, I'm still laying on the ground. This is way before the ambulance gets there. And I tell Shannon, I said, "Hey, you got to call two people. You got to call Travis Barnett,
Mm-hmm.
who's my cousin at the time. He works at the sheriff's office." I said, "You got to call him and you got to call my wife before I get in the ambulance." I said, "Because I want somebody to call to tell this person that I was shot, that you can sit here beside me and say, I'm talking to him. He's alert. He's talking, rather than somebody, hey, I was listening to the radio and Brad just said he got shot. I don't know what's going on, but he said he's shot."
Because you know that was going to happen.
And ended up, I talked to one of the investigators later on that got called in to work the case. He found out through Facebook before he was called by the department that I was shot.
That quick. It, and that.
And speaking on quick, my phone had voicemails on it from informants before I made it to the hospital,
From the
calling to check
streets.
on me because they knew I got shot.
And you think that was from the streets or that was from Facebook?
I don't know. I'm saying streets,
Mm-hmm.
but they were calling my phone before I made it to the hospital to check.
Well, I mean, it's, you can look at it both ways, I guess. You can look at it as a good thing. People care about you. But you can also look at it as loose lips sink ships. I mean, you don't want that business going out, especially to your wife, before she even knows, before she even hears your voice, she sees that you've been shot. I mean, that's tough and difficult to probably deal with because she doesn't have a clue. So
You're
you
right.
get to the hospital. Um, Obviously, probably in a trauma bay.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
And a little bit before that, believe it or not, we get to the hospital, we pull in the ambulance, doors pop open, and one of my close friends is now working at the hospital as security, and he's the first one to pop the door open, and he went through the police academy with me. And
Really?
he had no idea who it was. They had just
Right.
told him that the officers come in and shot. And it's another one of those, I didn't know how bad it was, but the way I was figuring it out was I was gauging everybody's response when they seen me. It's one of the things you can't turn it off. Watching people's behavior. I would watch them as how they reacted to when they seen me to know how bad it was.
Yeah, like you're strolling into the to the hospital, going to the trauma bay, and you got nurses looking at you sideways. It's probably time to grab a mirror and look for yourself. But when was the first time you really saw it?
I didn't see it until the next day after I'd been in the hospital all night and then did surgery. And all I seen then was gauze. So the
Right.
first time I seen the actual injuries was probably 3 or 4 days after it happened.
And that was from ID, I assume.
No, I didn't see those pictures until later on. I got my cousin to take a picture of it when I was in the hospital so I could see what it looked like.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I know you, and I know the struggles that you've had with the injury. I know you've had several surgeries. Um, what was the diagnosis of the injury, both injuries, and how many surgeries have you had? How many do you remember how many surgeries you've had? I know it's been a lot.
So as far as the eye, I have a complete metal plate that starts at the top of my eyebrow.
Hmm.
runs around the side, and it goes down the side of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I'm completely blind in my right eye. So
Is it your original eye?
it's my real eye. Nothing actually penetrated the eye, but the doctor said that it was so close that the vibration off the gun, the concussion coming off of it, because it was so close, it
Mhm.
just destroyed my optical nerve. So there's nothing they can do to fix it.
Okay.
As far as the other one, there was about a 3.5-inch hole, about a quarter size, in my ass cheek, which I just got a nice little scar there now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did they
but
fill it in, or did they just close it?
no, I wore what they call a wound vac, and it helps it grow. And I had one of
Okay.
those on for about 3 weeks,
I
and
got you.
it completely healed itself up as far as, so I never had any skin grafts or anything like that. But all total, I've had 8 surgeries.
Hmm.
I have one more that I'll have to have eventually. It's just a matter of time.
And what is that?
For a detached retina. The eye doctor said that it's partially detached, that he wants to let it get a little bit further along before he goes in and fully does surgery to reattach it. He said it's just waiting on when that'll come around.
Did so let it's crazy story. I've heard it every time I hear it. It's the same feeling of it's just unbelievable. Let's go, and I know we don't like to talk about Mr. Odell, but tell us what happened. He drives by you. Did you find out what happened to him? I mean, was he shot? What happened?
So he goes to his girlfriend's house. While he's at his girlfriend's house, she tries to help him put towels on it, things like that, just trying to, because I ended up hitting him 5 times in the chest. I fired 9 rounds at him while he was running past me. I hit him 5 times in the chest. He never slows down. It's not what you see in the movies. They don't just drop.
Yeah.
So he gets hit 5 times, goes to his girlfriend's house, tells her what happened. She says, okay, come on, loads him up in her car, takes him to his cousin's house, and they get in his car and start driving towards Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Did anybody bandage him up? I mean, he's got to be bleeding.
So on the way, they stop at a convenience store and buy tampons and put tampons in the bullet holes to try to help with the bleeding. And the only reason I know this is because ended up when they caught him, he still had the tampons in the holes.
Right. So he's driving. He makes his way. God only knows how he made his way out of Spartanburg County with the cars that were coming to you. But he eventually makes it out. And where does he go to?
They get on the interstate and they call his girlfriend, or they get on the interstate with his cousin and his girlfriend in the car. He's in the back seat. They're going up through there. Well, it's about this time that the investigators are getting to me at the hospital and talking to me before I go into surgery. So he's asking me what's going on. He said, do you know who it is? I said, all I can tell you is he's 6'4", 6'5", because we were eye to eye looking over the fence. Black male, 3 to 4 inch dreads, white t-shirt, blue jeans. That's all I can tell you. I said, I know when y'all find him, he will be somehow related back to Highland, the community, because I've tried to stop that car and somebody bailed out in Highland. So
Did you know at the time that you had actually shot him?
Do I now?
Did you know at the time that you had actually hit him, or did you just suspect that you hit him?
I didn't even know. I told him on the radio, I said, I fire rounds at him, but I don't know if I hit him or not.
Okay.
Because, like I said, he didn't change his behavior at all. He just kept running.
Okay. All right. So the investigators come and you give them some information, and what's he doing?
So they check the car and run the tag, and it comes back to his girlfriend, the car that he was in originally. Mm-hmm. So they find her number in the system, and SLED calls her on the phone. SLED called in, obviously, about this time because this officer-involved shooting. So SLED calls her in on her cell phone, and they said, hey, do you know where your car is at? She said, no, I don't know where my car is at. So they ping her phone. They said, where are you at right now? She said, well, I'm in Columbia. Well, her cell phone pings in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, that's obviously you're lying to us. So they keep pinging her phone, and it's steadily going north up 85. Well, they don't know what kind of car she's in, but they obviously want to get in touch with her because they think he's with her. So they keep pinging the phone, and 2 of the investigators from Spartanburg County said, y'all keep working. We're going to jump on 85 and start riding, hit north. And so they're flying up, have no idea what they're looking for. They just keep pinging the phone, and they're running.
So are they on the phone with other detectives figuring out where it's pinging?
Yes. So there's two detectives in the car. One of them is on the phone with the SLED agent, and the other one is trying to talk to her to figure out what's going on, back and forth. So they get all the way to Virginia, and they still pinging the phone, and they're closing the gap. Because we end up finding out later on that they pulled over 5 times between here and Virginia. The girlfriend said, I kept trying to pull over and go to a hospital to get him checked out because he had these bullet holes, but he wouldn't. He refused to get out of the car.
Right.
She said, so I'd get back on the interstate and keep driving. They had no idea where they were going. They just got on 85 and started going north. So they keep pinging the phone, and they get into Virginia, and the investigators here with SLED tell our investigators, it's like, look, it's pinging at a gas station a couple 100 feet from where y'all are at.
Wow.
So they've just closed that gap all the way down to this. So they're riding through that gas station. They see a South Carolina tag. They say, well, run this tag for us. Well, it comes back to her.
Yep.
So they call 911 up there, tell them, hey, there's this car. We think it's got a guy in it that shot our officer back in Spartanburg. We need y'all to come out here and stop this car. City department says, that's in the county. You need to call the county. Call the county. County said, no, that's in the city. You need to call the city.
Right.
So our investigator tells the dispatch, look, no offense, either y'all come out here, send somebody out here to get this guy, or y'all gonna have a mess on your hands, because one way or another, this guy is going back to Spartanburg.
Right.
So they send the state police out there, which covers everything.
Was it a trooper?
Yes.
Okay.
So they send him out there. They get there, and they sit on the side of the road, because I've watched the in-car body camera and everything from up there when they caught the guy. So they sit on the side of the road, and it's a red Impala, comes past them. They pull out, do a felony traffic stop on his car, and it kind of pulls up on a little bit of a hill. Car pulls over. They do a felony traffic stop, call out. His girlfriend gets out of the driver's seat. They take her into custody. They call out to the car again. His little cousin gets out. They bring him back to the hood of the car, and they're putting him in handcuffs. And you can see the brake lights flicker on the car that they have pulled over. And they ask her, they said, is he in the car? She said, yeah, he's in the back seat. They call out to the car again. He jumps from the back seat into the front seat and takes off in the car.
Wow.
So they have another police chase there. It's about 7:05 in the morning now up in Virginia. Their chief comes on the radio and is like, look, we got kids going to school. Y'all need to go ahead and end this.
Yes.
So they pull up beside him to pit him, and he starts ramming their patrol car with his car that he's driving now, this Impala. They pit him off into a ditch. He shoots at them.
So he's shooting again.
Yeah. So he starts shooting at them. They shoot into the car through the windshield, where he's now the driver. 2 rounds hit the steering wheel and ricochet and go around him.
Wow.
He don't get hit again. And the only reason I ended up knowing that I had hit him 5 times was when they called her out of the car before all this broke loose as far as their chase. They asked her, was he in the car? She said, yes. They said, is he shot? She said, yes, he shot 5 times, and this is where he's hit. So they knew beforehand that he was hit 5 times, and this is where he's been shot.
He must be the luckiest person in the world to survive.
Yes.
Not only yours, but Virginia State Patrol shooting at him.
So then they end up having a standoff up there for about 30 minutes. He won't come out of the car. So they pump gas into the car, fire shotgun rounds in it with gas into the car. He rolls out of the car. They take him into custody. He fights them, lies about who he is, and so they finally get him into custody up in Virginia.
Did they get the weapon that he used against you?
Yes, not the one he used against me, but it was a different weapon.
Oh, okay. So he has another weapon. Did they ever find the gun that he used against you?
No, we never knew. And the only reason we were able to put it together through the girlfriend later on, through investigation, they was able to put it together as far as what he was shooting.
Right. They knew it had to be something other than a bullet. I mean, with the charring and I got you. Crazy, crazy, crazy story. Every time like I said, every time you say it, man, it just gives me chills. And what courage it took for you to do all that, man. I'm blessed to be a friend for sure. I want to go into the challenges that you faced, because I know it's been a lot, but what were the biggest challenges that you faced after the fact?
So I knew obviously there was going to be challenges because I was blind in my right eye.
Mm-hmm.
So for the next 2 weeks, I'm going back and forth with the eye doctor because I had a plastic surgeon and then I had an eye doctor. So I was going back and forth to appointments every 2 to 3 days. I was in the doctor's office,
Wow.
having surgeries and everything. So I flat out asked the eye doctor, I was like, look, what's the deal? Am I going back to work or not? He said, well, I'm going to try one more surgery. And if it don't work and you don't get your vision back, you can go back to work, but only have one eye. Cool. I'm in.
Right.
There's never a point in time that I'm not going back to work.
So never a point in time did you think maybe I should probably sit on the sidelines? This is a little too close to home, or was it I'm itching to get back out there?
No, it was from the time I was riding in the ambulance. I was telling Tony, I said, I'll be back. I'm not stopping this because
Interesting story. I guess it does relate to this, but it took you a while. I remember being on the road when you did come back, but when you did come back, it was fireworks because the first night that you got there, I think it was like 7:20 p.m. We had just signed on and you chased a car again. So
yeah, it was never a fact of I'm not coming back. I guess it goes back to my whole mindset of, going into law enforcement, there's a chance that you're not coming home.
right.
I mean, you may go to work one day and you're not coming home at night, but that going into that job. So I'm not going to go to this job. And now what I knew was a possibility could happened and say, you know what, now I changed my mind. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
That wasn't an option. That's it.
Where this podcast is based off Straight Talk on leadership. So I want to kind of get into the leadership part of it. What in your mind, because I know you've been through a lot, how have you changed in a good way or in a positive way from that night to now in the position that you are? Have you taken a step back and looked at it and learned things from it? Have you become a better person from it? What are some of the positive things that's come from such a negative incident?
I would say it's changed me, but it really hadn't as far as my mindset going to work. Mm-hmm. I still want to work for 12 hours when I go to work. I guess it opened my eyes. It made me understand that, like, a normal officer comes into work every day and they hope it don't happen. Mm-hmm. You hope you don't get shot that day. You hope you don't get injured and stuff like that. For me, I come to work knowing that it's going to happen again, and I will be prepared and I will go home again.
Right. I got you. So it kind of made you like bite your teeth down and say, you know what, I was complacent that night, but I won't be complacent again. Kind of one of those things.
And it's been one of those things where before I like to work alone. Mm-hmm. Nothing other than the fact that I just like to go out there and work alone. If I need backup, I'll call backup. I'm not one of those that I don't need backup. It's just I'm going to go out here and I'm going to ride around, and when it hits the fan, you'll know it and you can come back me up or whatever. But
right.
It's opened my eyes up more to trying to help newer officers and teach them what to do and what not to do, because I've seen it. I've been through it. I mean, I can explain to you from firsthand experience.
Right. So if you can take away one key thing, Brad, if you could take away one thing from that day and tell a rookie officer that's coming in through FTO, and he what would you tell him?
No matter what happens to you, whether you're shot in the head, whether you're shot in the chest, if you're still breathing, you're still living.
Right.
Fight. Don't give up.
Don't take. And I think one of the biggest things, and that I noticed in you after the shooting, was you really didn't take things for granted. You know, you talked more to people. You communicated with people a little bit more than you usually did, because you kind of, like you said, you stayed to yourself. You enjoyed staying to yourself. It's not that you wouldn't talk to people, but you really just wanted to come to work and do your work. You didn't want to chit chat around. But after that, it kind of, I feel like you understood how life is very short, and you wanted to have relationships with people a little bit more. And that's commendable. And I think that's, from me looking at it, I think that's what I noticed from you. I don't know how you felt, but I did notice that, and it was really good to see. Um, and like I said, man, you know, I can't say I've been shot. I don't think a lot of people in Spartanburg County can say they've been shot and live from it. So you have a story to tell, and man, we're just blessed to have you on here and be able to express that, living, breathing. We wanted to learn from it. So anything else that you really want to say about that, you go ahead. I'm gonna give you the platform. Um, may it be to future law enforcement, may it be to law enforcement now. Um, Whatever you want to say, I'm going to leave it up to you.
I will say, I know people talk about all the time about working out, but make sure you're physically fit to do the job, man. I mean, you don't have to go to the gym 7 days a week and eat a perfect meal, but when it hits the fan, you're going to have some form of physical ability to protect yourself, to go home to your family, to your kids, to your loved ones, man. I mean, you're the only one. A lot of times you by yourself. I mean, you can't rely on nobody else to make sure you get home that night but yourself.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you're prepared physically as well as mentally. And I'll be honest with you, one of the things I think that helped me the most was always in my career, I've run scenarios through my head. So like I'll lay down and go to bed at night thinking, okay, I just got shot. This is what's going on. What am I going to do? Like I've run scenarios even to this day, and I'm a school resource officer now. I still run scenarios through my head. It mentally prepares you. So like when it happened, it was never a thought of what am I supposed to do?
Right.
So always
you had gone through it so many times in your head. It might not have been the perfect scenario. You might not have thought you were on Carolina Drive Extension in Kimberly, but you saw and envisioned that this could happen. Right.
Oh yeah.
So Brad, we've enjoyed it. What a phenomenal story that you have. You're very blessed to be able to tell that story. Anytime you want to come back on here and talk about things that you've learned or things you're doing now, we'd love to have you. If you want to plug any of your social media, please do so for people to get in contact with you, because there might be somebody out there that wants to learn from you. And honestly, that's the thing we hear. We want people to learn from stuff that's happened.
I'll say this. I'll give you all my information, social media, phone number, whatever, email, whatever you need. Anybody that ever needs to talk or anything like that, I'll talk. There's a lot of mental stuff that goes behind it. And so if anybody ever needs to talk, let me know.